Hi everyone. Um, so at college, someone basically had the idea that while we're confined to four walls, it would be a great idea for people to read just books that they will enjoy or books that they could think about doing their coursework on next year. So basically, I'm just going to talk about a book called The Tattooist of Auschwitz. I don't actually have it with me, so I can't show you the cover because I actually borrowed it to someone because I recommended it. So basically, this is just, I'm not sure if you could do it for coursework, you'd have to check, but just for general reading, it's a really good book. Um, and basically, what it is, it's you can probably infer from the title, it's about the tattooist of Auschwitz. So it's a true story. So the main character is called Lael, that's his name in real life. And basically, the author met Lael, and this book was published in 2018. But she did some research prior to this, obviously, because it's a sensitive topic and needs to be handled with care. Um, and basically, Lael died in real life in 2006. So previous to his death, she met him. She got his like encounters, what he remembered. And if you actually get the book at the back, it has all like historical documents that she's used. So just so the book isn't inaccurate basically. So to talk about the plot, basically I'm guessing we all have a background knowledge of the Holocaust and Auschwitz, basically the extermination of Jews, and basically Lael gets taken to the concentration camp. And at this time it's when it's just starting out. So it's just men. And what happens to him, he contracts typhoid and he gets really ill, but this guy saves him, and he becomes this guy that saves him is the tattooist, and he gets Lael to get this job basically. But being that job, because it's so important, because inmates were prisoners, they were tattooed and identified by that number, not their name. And having that is a really important role. So in a way, he's quite privileged. Obviously, not. We think of privileged as being in a better position, basically. And even though he's in this horrible conditions, he gets like extra rations and things like that. So basically, it's like his lifeline, and that's revealed a lot through the book. That he doesn't want to do this job particularly, but he knows that he has to in order to survive. And basically, what happens is he's there for quite some time. It's a few years, but there's very raw, real moments in the book. So he sees children die, for example. He he meets these workers basically that are working in Auschwitz from outside, and they bring him food and jewels and stuff, and he does exchanges for them. But instead of just keeping this food for himself, he shares it with other prisoners basically, and that would be like a really risky thing to do because they only get like their allowance is pittance basically, like a slice of bread each day, not even that. And basically within this plot of Lael going to Auschwitz, he after it's just men, women and children also get transported to Auschwitz, and basically he meets this woman that he's tattooing. They can't really talk or anything, but she's called Gita, and we learn this as they are attracted to each other and they meet up and stuff like that, which isn't allowed, but he gets around it. You'll see if you read it how. And basically, plot. I don't want to ruin it too much, but it's kind of them building their relationship up and talking about future hopes and if this will even happen because obviously most people in Auschwitz die. And eventually, what happens is when Auschwitz is coming to an end, Gita and a few other women, they're taken away to different camps basically because Auschwitz is going to be exploited, and she manages to run away. And basically, Lael manages to escape as well, and he goes back to his hometown. And I think it's his sister. Yeah, his sister's still there. Obviously, hasn't seen her in ages, this traumatic event. And he basically travels to find Gita. It seems a bit far fetched, and to be honest, on a first reading, I thought it was, but we've built up to this love story, so it kind of becomes more believable. And basically, they do reunite, and then they're allowed to continue their lives together. But basically, I just found it's a really good read. It's a really simple read in terms of language. It's not simple in a sense of like emotionally, because I've actually been to Auschwitz myself a few years ago, and although I appreciated it, and obviously you need to respect that place because of the historical impact that it has and the history that's involved behind that. But I wish I would have read something along these lines to understand it a bit better. Because I did meet a Holocaust survivor and I saw the tattoo. And what struck me after reading this is thinking back to that moment and that experience that I had and thinking, oh my gosh, like it could have been Lael that tattooed her, basically. And I think that's why I like this book so much because it's very powerful, it's very emotional, and I think it's just the fact that it's more anchored towards real life. So I think I mentioned this a minute ago, but when you if you do buy this book or read it, towards the end you've got all the documents that Heather gets. And basically what made it so real for me is that Lael only decided to tell his story after Gita died. And I guess it's that pain behind the story, and like the themes within it you could say is like, yeah, pain, love, guilt, like, because I feel as you read it, you get this sense of guilt from Lael because he obviously doesn't want to inflict pain and etching this permanent mark into other people's skin, but he knows that he has to do that basically. And it's kind of like we get these moments in the book where he's so close to either death or he's so close to getting in trouble or getting other people in trouble, and kind of how he gets around that by the position that he has. And one thing that really helps him is that he knows a lot of different languages. So, kind of particular moments that stood out to me in the book are at the beginning. He's got all these books because he seems to like he's very well educated. Then you get other moments where they're kind of like gypsies, but that's not correct terminology. It'd be like Romani children, and they come into Lael's block where he's sleeping, and he builds up this connection with them, telling them stories, entertaining them. And basically, he wakes up in the middle. I can't remember if it's the middle of the night or the morning now, and basically they're all gone because they've been taken to the gas chambers. And it's kind of that moment where it's like loss of innocence, like humanity, basically. And you kind of there's also another moment where someone high up in ranks, basically, can't remember the name now, but they can't distinguish the tattoo numbers on two of the inmates that have died in the gas chamber. So they pull Lael in and say, look, you're the tattooist. You did these tattoos. You need to tell us. So they take him into the gas chamber, and it's really hard to describe. I can't even put it into words myself. I've been in a gas chamber um, when I went to Auschwitz. So when I was reading the description, it was very easy for me to imagine it in my head because it was so cold and it was just horrible. You can't even begin to imagine. Like, I wouldn't be able to imagine it if I hadn't have been there. And basically, you just get this raw sense and description, and that's what makes it so real. So even though it's a really easy read, it kind of reminded me of like a teen fiction book, but it's just the fact that you know that it's real and that them historical documents that M really help. Because if you're quite an emotional person, it is quite an emotional book. I think it's really important that people do read these kind of books and just educate yourself, really. Um, so yeah, they're my main feelings about it. Also, Gita makes a friend, and it's very. The sequel to it is this book. I can't show you the books, as I said, it's been borrowed at the minute. But this is afterwards, and this girl Silka, she becomes very important in the Tattooist of Auschwitz. and her story is so raw and powerful. So you get Lael's story as a man, and then you get Gita's story as a woman, like filtered through Lael. And I won't spoil it too much, but basically she's kind of like interlinked with this guy that's high in the ranks, basically, and how he exploits her and takes advantage of her. So it was kind of a satisfying read, but there's moments throughout where I'd just be a bit cautious if, yeah, there's a lot of death. There's a lot, yeah, basically, I can't even find a word to sum up the Holocaust. But I think it's really important that we read about it, and it's a book I'd recommend. But as I said, I'm not sure if you'd be able to do it for coursework, so you might want to check. But while we've got however long in self isolation, yeah, I think why not try these shelf isolation videos and see how much reading you can get done. Thanks for listening, and I hope if you do read it, then you really enjoy it as I did.